Greetings, YouTube. As the title of this video says, why don't we blame rapists? Why do we continually blame the victims of rapists? Why do we say things like, well, that person shouldn't have dressed that way, or that person shouldn't have been in that part of town at night, or that person should have known if they got drunk, they were going to get raped? You see, how a person dresses or doesn't dress, the level of inebriation a person has, where they are at any time, day or night, regardless of location, doesn't matter. None of these people will be harmed in this particular manner unless a rapist steps up into the picture. So, why don't we blame them? To some folks, that's a radical concept. In fact, when I put forth that idea that we should blame the rapists for rape, I am frequently shouted down. So I'm going to throw a few statistics at you, and these statistics are from the U.S. Department of Justice Bureau of Justice Statistics, which just rolls off the tongue. This data was collected between 1995 and the year 2010. Alrighty. 91% of rape victims are female. 99% of arrested rapists are men, which means that of the remaining 9% are males. And still, 99% of the rapists are male. So males are being raped by males far more frequently than males are being raped by females. Nearly 2 of 3 rapists are known to the victim's friend or acquaintance. According to RAINN, I can't remember what RAINN stands for. Rape awareness something, I think. 54% of rapes go unreported. So of all the rapes that we have statistics on, like actual arrest records, things like that, 54% of all the rapes just never get reported at all. So there are far more rapes out there in the world than are being shown in arrest records. Only 3% of rapists will ever spend time in jail. 3%. And I will link all of this information, plus a link in the bottom that deals with some further places to look for data if you'd like to, in the show notes. So, even if every rape were reported, an incredibly small percentage of them ever see jail time. And there are few crimes as horrendous as rape. Rape is often spoken in the same breath with the word murder or homicide. And there's good reason for it. Because there are few things in the world as horrifying, as life-altering as either a murder or a rape. Now, some folks in the male rights movement will say that, when I say these things, that 91% of victims are female, that somehow I'm ignoring the other 9%. Oh, I'm not. I've never ignored it. I never will ignore it. And please remember that as a male survivor of sexual abuse, at the hands of both a man and a woman, I am not ignoring any side of this discussion. That if you're talking to me, remember that. And I can only be held accountable for my own particular views on this. So if someone else has spoken to you in a way that you didn't like, I suggest go talking to them. But I recognize that males are raped. I recognize that not all rapists are male. But the reality is that 99% of them are. So, I want to know, why is it when we speak out against this, we say, let's teach males not to rape, that's considered radical? Why is that? And I had a discussion not that long ago about consent, and I'm telling you that the concept of consent was not brought up in the sex education I had in high school. The concept of consent was not discussed amongst any group that I was a member of through my entire life as a teenager. Society didn't tell me about consent. My parents didn't tell me about consent. My school didn't tell me about consent. No one mentioned consent at all to me. And consent as a concept, consent as something that we have to be aware of and that we have to make sure that we get before we proceed with a sexual interaction with someone, was not something that made it onto my radar until I was in my 30s. Now, admittedly, this was an era before the ubiquity of the internet. So maybe in today's world, where you can see my face at the click of a button, maybe that's not as common. Maybe having exposure to the concept of consent is much more the norm. Awesome. But I'm telling you that people in my age bracket did not get that exposure. No one I went to school with did. None of the people I knew, I hung out with. None of the men that I would talk about women with ever mentioned consent. Not once. And that's a scary thing. But now that this topic is on the radar of society, that's good. It's important that we're having this discussion. It's important that we continue having this discussion. It's important that we remember that almost all the rapists in our society are males. And that we need to speak to men and tell them that they have total control over whether there is ever a rape left in the world. That if every single male in the world were to stop raping right now, rape would no longer be said in the same breath as murder. It would become a thing of the past. It would become so rare that maybe we would look upon it with the horror that every single rape deserves. So tell me, what is so radical about saying we need to teach men not to rape? What is it about that concept that angers people? What is it about that concept that angers men so much? I personally think it's that men don't like to have that mirror put in front of their face. Because that's what these statistics do. It holds up that mirror and says, you are the face of the people in the world that are rapists. That it is fellow men that commit this. Now, there's something delightfully ironic and appropriate at the moment because I'm staring at my face. As I look into this camera, I can see myself. And I'm telling you, I'm not a rapist, but I can't ignore it. I can't not look in the mirror or into this camera and ignore the fact that 99% of the people in the world that look like me are the rapists. And I'm telling them right now, stop it. The power to stop rape is in your hands, and you can do it right now. So tell me, why is that so radical?